Okay, so the purpose of this video is to introduce you to AutoCAD. The way we're going to do that is we're going to learn how to draw a title block and a border. We're going to take that title block and border and we're going to turn it into a template. And then you'll reuse this template for the rest of the year as your title block and border every time you do a drawing. So the way we're going to start is we'll go to the desktop, and on the desktop you should have a shortcut for AutoCAD 2018 English. For some reason it's not there. Go to the Windows button, type in AutoCAD, or go to Programs, and then either under Autodesk or right here where it says AutoCAD 2018 English, one of those two places you should be able to find it. So now we're going to open up AutoCAD, and you see this is our intro screen. You could get open files, open a sheet, or start a new drawing. We're going to choose to start a new drawing. If you can also see here's my recent documents, so it should have like an account of all the things that you've opened so far, that you've worked on so far, but we're going to start a new drawing. The first thing we have to do when we start a new drawing is we have to set our drawing units. We want to know when I enter a number, am I entering meters or centimeters or miles or yards or feet and inches like we're going to do now. The way that you do that is you type in units, U-N-I-T-S, hit enter. You're going to change from decimal to architectural. We could choose engineering or fractional or scientific, but we're going to choose architectural. Make sure your precision is 1/16. Make sure that your units are set to inches. So if I type in 100, it knows I mean 100 inches, not 100 feet or yards. I could change it to feet, like that's an option, but we're going to leave it at inches. Say OK, and that'll give us our opening screen. The next thing we have to do is we're going to set our drawing limits. That is the amount of area that we're going to work in. And depending on the size of your drawing, if you're doing a building, it could be 100 feet by 100 feet, but we're doing a title block and border, so that's relatively small. So let's type in limits, L-I-M-I-T-S, limits, hit enter. It wants to know where our starting point is, so we're going to say 0, 0, hit enter. And you can see all of what I'm typing in. So next to my mouse here is the dynamic entry input. So it's going to tell me right there what my next choices are for entering. But this also shows up down here on the command bar. So specify lower left-hand corner, 0, 0. That's what I just did. This is what I'm about to do. That's that next question. I should be able to make this bigger. Not sure if I can. That is right there, I think. And I can see a whole list of all of the things that I've done. Doesn't really come up that often, but if it's something you needed to do, it's there. So let's go back, because I think we might have screwed that up when we did that. Let's type in limits again. Hit enter. 0, 0. Now it wants my upper right-hand corner. Our paper is going to be 8.5 by 11. So let's go 11.5. 11.5, comma, 9. Enter. Something didn't go right there. Let's try one more time. 0, 0. Enter. There it is right there. So now we want to go 11.5, comma, 9. So we're a ½ an inch bigger than we should be. So now we're going to go through and we're going to draw, and you see that's there, 11.5, 9. You can see that down there. So I'm going to go choose rectangle now because I want to draw the first lines of my title block. I'm going to pick a starting point of 0, 0. So it's going to start drawing my rectangle there. I could drag this out and draw my rectangle wherever I wanted it, but I want it to be a certain size. So I'm going to type in 11, comma, 8.5. Now, I actually want my title block and border to be about a ½ inch less than that. So we're going to use the offset tool to accomplish that. So up here, I'm going to click on offset, and then it's going to ask me specify my offset distance. I'm going to say 0.5, since I want to indent on all three sides, 0.5. So we're going to click here, right, to make that. Now, since I've done that, I don't really need this line anymore, so I'm going to delete it. And actually, I'm going to undo that. I'm going to hit Control-Z and Control-Z because I do want to come in, but I don't think I want to come in that far. So let's try a different offset. Let's go offset, 0.25, then click here and here. Yeah, I like that better. You know, I don't like to waste a lot of white space. So now I'm going to delete my outer rim. So now I should have a border that is, what, 10.5 by 8. I'm going to select my whole thing, and right now, this object is one big object, right? I can't really pull the lines apart. They stay together. I'm going to hit Control-Z to make that go back. What I want to be able to do is I want to be able to offset, and I want to be able to manipulate just certain lines in it. So I'm going to select, and the way I can do that is if I click, and then I click again and draw a box around it, I can do it that way. And something about selecting too. If I select from right to left, so if I click and I drag, I gotta break this apart first. Sorry. Click here, click there, click explode, which is right above offset. Click explode. It'll turn my object now into individual line segments, so they're not all together. Hit Control Z. I was starting to talk about selecting objects. If I click from right to left, so click from right to left, and I click on it, it will select anything my line touches, my box. If I select from left to right, see my box is encompassing these two lines, but it doesn't select these lines. If I'm going from left to right, I have to all the way select it. Right to left, I only got to go part of the way. Right? Every time I do, it'll select a little bit more. That way. The only thing is if you hold your mouse down and select, you can make like irregular shapes for selection. So just another way to do that. All right, so let's start getting back to working on my title block. So I'm going to come up here and I'm going to go to offset. And I want the offset to go up from here to make my title block. So I'm going to set an offset of 0.5. Enter. And then I'm going to select this line and click above it. Then I'll select this line and click above it. And now I've got my first two rows. I'm going to go to offset again. I'm going to choose 1 for 1 inch. I'm going to select here and there, here and there. Then I'm going to go through and do it again. If I hit enter, that'll get me out of whatever command I'm in. Enter again, and it gets me back into the same command I was just in. This is true for every tool. So if I type in 4.25 now and hit enter, now if I click here and there, I get one 4.25 away. Enter and enter, so I can type in a new offset, 1.375. Click here and there. And then we need a couple of 0.75. So enter 0.75. And then we'll go here and there, here and there. Now I'll hit escape to get out of my command that I'm in. And I'm going to trim all of this up to get it to look the way that I want. The trim tool is up here. So click trim. You have to select all of the objects you want to trim. And technically I want all of the objects you want to trim and lines that you want to trim with them. So I'm going to hit enter again. And now I'm going to select all these lines since I don't want any of them. I'm going to come down here and I'm going to take this out since I don't need anything there. I'm going to take these out since I don't want anything there. And I'll take that. And that's essentially my title block. That's what we're going to end up doing. So now that I have that, I'm going to go through, and so there are two different types of spaces. We'll talk more about them through different videos. But there is model space. So if you look down here, there are tabs in the bottom left-hand corner. This one says model, then it says layout 1 and layout 2. Model space is an area where you draw. You draw full size. So if it's 100 feet by 100 feet, you draw a line that's 100 feet long by 100 feet long. But when I go to layout space is where my paper is. Like this is my actual object. Right now I have a piece of paper that's 8.5 by 11. So what and I have a viewport. This is a window, and I'll give you, it's kind of weird looking because of the grid. But if you double click inside of it, now I'm no longer on my paper. I'm inside my window. Here's my window here. I'll give you a better idea. If I shrink it down, see, this is my window into model space. I can see from paper space into model space in this window. So what I want to do is I want to take that window and I want to stretch it all the way out to the edges of my paper. Okay. So there's my window. And now, so also, if you look at drawing limits, here's my limits. Right? I don't know how I moved, why I'm not sitting at 0, 0 like I should be, but I'm not. And it's not like it's the most important thing in the whole world, but let's see if I can get myself there. If I select my object and then hit M-Enter for move, it's going to ask me to choose a base point, so I'm going to choose one. And now I'm going to say 0, 0. Let's see if it goes where I need it to go. I made my thing bigger. I don't necessarily know why, but that's okay. All right, so we want to go through and we want to enter model space, and I want to turn off this grid because I don't really want to look at it. So if I come down here, here is grid, here is snap. I'm going to click, and that'll turn off the grid. Now I want to go through, and I want to expand my title block out so that it fully fits inside this page. So what I'm going to do is, and also notice, now that I'm in model space, I can't grab these lines anymore because those are the outside edges of the window. That's what's on the paper. I can only grab what's in model space. I can hold down the mouse ball and drag my object around, But what I am going to do is I'm going to go down here. This is the viewport toolbar. If I hit the arrow and I hit scale to fit, it'll fully take up my object. Now I'm going to double click back outside here to model space, or to paper space. Sorry, layout space they call it now. And what I can see is I can see my viewport and I can see the outer edge of my drawing. And I don't really want that. I just want to see one line. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a layer, and I'm going to put my viewports in that layer. The way layers work like old school projectors, right? Remember how, I don't know if you would remember this, but teachers used to come through and they would take a piece of film and they would write on it, and then they would put another piece on it and they would write on top of that, and you could see through one to the other. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a layer. I'm going to go to Layer Properties. I'm going to go to Create New Layer, right? New Layer. And I'm going to name this one Viewports. I'm going to call it Vports, V-P-O-R-T-S. Okay? Say OK. Well, actually, no, just X out of it. And now that I have it, I'm going to click on my viewports. Everything that I've drawn so far was in the 0 layer. It's like the default layer that comes with AutoCAD. I'm going to click on this, and then I'm going to click on viewports, which will move it to the viewports layer. So, for example, if I click in here and I click on one of those lines, you see up here it says 0. My thing's in the 0 layer. If I click back outside and click, see it's in the viewports layer. Now I want to hide it. I want to turn it off so I can't see it. So I'm going to click on the light bulb, click back out, and now my viewport, my window, I can't see it, but it's still there. I can turn it right back on, click the arrow again, or click the light bulb again, it comes on, click the light bulb, it goes off. I also want to do this now with my title block, and you'll see why later when we mess with line weights. So I'm going to go to Layer Properties again, I'm going to go to New, and let's just call this one Title Block. T-I-T-T-L-E, oh, too many. Title Block. Fingers don't want to work today. Title block. Say OK. I am going to, we'll go to model space just to make sure I select on the right thing. I'm going to select on my entire title block. I'm going to go and I'm going to click on title blocks. And now, as you can tell, if I click on any line there, it's in title block. If I draw a different line, so I'm just going to draw a line here. This line is in the 0 layer. This line is in the title block layer. So we'll go through and delete that now. And I have them where I want them. If I come back to my layout space, the reason that we created a layer for the title block is that the line weight for your title block should be the darkest lines on your page. So if you go through to Layer Properties again, you'll see, especially if I expand this out, I'm not sure how to expand it out. Maybe it's this. Nope. I don't know. There must be. Oh, there it goes. So we expand this out, we can see all sorts of information that's in here. One of them is line weight. So if I go to title blocks, and I go to line weight. Right now it's set to default. Let's try and beef it up. And we'll go way too big for now just so we can prove that it's going to do what we want it to. Let's set it to 1.4. Say OK. And now I'm going to come back down into my drawing, and my line weights haven't changed. And so I'm saying to myself, why haven't my line weights changed? Well, we have to turn the line weights on. With line weights can be hard because if you have these big thick lines and they're all over the place, it can almost hide other lines. So you want to be able to turn them on and off. So down here, I have this open. You might not. If you come to this bar right here, you want to make sure that line weight is checked. So if I uncheck it and then check it again, you see it opens and closes that button. I'm going to go to that button, which will turn my line weights on, and now I have really thick line weights. Now, honestly, too thick of a line weight. So we're going to go back through here one more time, go back to Layer Properties, and try to find something that makes a little more sense. Now that I have line weights on, and I say OK, it shrinks them down, and I can see them shrink. So I think 0.5 is too thin. 0.53, not quite. Let's try 0.6 maybe, 0.7. I like 0.7. That's pretty good. So now they're darker, but they're not. 0.7 should work for you, but if for some reason they don't, then they don't. You'll have to go through and you'll have to choose something that makes a little bit more sense. But hopefully 0.7 works for all of us. Once you've gotten to this point, we're going to stop. At least for now, and we're going to take a pause and make sure you can catch up with me and be in good shape. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File. I'm going to go to Save As, and I'm going to save mine to my desktop. You should save yours to your network folder, most likely in Q1, depending on exactly when we're doing this, but my plan is to do it in Q1. And I'm going to name it, and also just because it's here, if you want to take a peek. Remember I told you in other programs in the old days, they always had the file extension at the end here? So now you're seeing drawing1.dwg. .dwg is a file extension that AutoCAD recognizes. It knows that that's something that it should open. So I'm going to write over it and go title block so that I can save that on my desktop as title block. and then hit save. And I should see it here just to make sure it showed up. It did. One more time, if I go to File and I go to Save As, you'll see it says title block, but it's saving it as a .dwg, so it knows what's opening. I can change it to any of these, and there's lots of different types of files, lots of different extensions. .dwt is a drawing template, which is probably what we'll save this as eventually. .dwf is for something else. There are all sorts of different options. So once you've gotten to this point, you're good. This is a good little checkpoint. We'll come back through with another video after this. But for now, good luck and go to work.